I don't want to waste your time, so there won't be an intro. In this video, I'll be showing you some of the Valk cams that I typically throw in my ranked games. Now, this isn't supposed to be the be-all end-all of Valk, and there are a lot of great spots that I didn't feature in this video. Anyways, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is that you don't always need to throw fancy Valkyrie cams. If you're prone to lose control of the objective, and that happens somewhat often on border, then it's alright to just throw one cam into the corner of the objective, because the enemy team has better things to do than to watch the corners of the objective. The second cam I throw is also really good when you're defending ventilation and workshop, because every successful attack on that spot includes taking control of armory. This cam might seem a bit too obvious, but as you can see in just a moment, if the enemy team has proper crosshair placement and aren't aiming towards the sky, then it's somewhat likely that they will miss it. This cam gives you a lot of information about the rooms and hallways surrounding the objective, and spots like these is probably where Valkyrie cams shine the most. The cams I throw on bank are really good at showing that you don't always need to throw your cams up high. There are a lot of situations where it's actually better to throw them down low. But that's also associated with the risk, because now drones will be able to see it very easily. One important thing that you should keep in mind when you're playing Valkyrie is you don't always need to throw the same 3 cams every round. You should adapt to what the enemy team was doing in the rounds before. For example, if they attacked from garage but left server alone, you might not want to throw a server cam and instead put one cam into garage, so you have more info on that part of the map. Whenever you're throwing Valkyrie cams, there's always going to be a trade-off between risk and reward, and I typically want to keep risk low, so that's why I throw it here instead of at a more open place. You must protect your bombs from being detected. On certain maps, you always want to have one Valkyrie cam outside, and Chalet is certainly one of them. And the key to throwing outside cams is not being detected. It doesn't really matter where you throw the outside cam, because the outside area is very large. But the key is to not be detected. This is one of the only times where being detected while throwing an outside cam is okay, because the cam is just really, really good. Coast is also a great example of having to adapt your Valkyrie cams, because there are a lot of different and viable ways to attack Penthouse, and depending on what the enemy team did in the previous rounds, you need to adjust your Valkyrie cams accordingly. If you're having trouble with time management, you can also throw this cam from hookah door, but then you will be detected, and that makes this cam considerably worse in my opinion. Consulate is probably one of the best maps for Valkyrie because a lot of the attacker gameplay revolves around rappelling outside of the objective, and there are also a lot of great spots for cams to throw outside of the objective. For example, all the palm trees, and that's why Valkyrie is really good on this map. The thing with the palm trees is that even if you can't really see anything because the leaves are blocking your view, you can always still mark, and that's probably even better because the enemy team won't be able to see where they're being marked from. This cam might seem a bit obvious, but it's actually not that bad because if the enemy team are good players and they have proper crosshair placements, their backs are always going to be turned towards the cam if they are approaching from the east side. Throwing this cam is a bit tricky, but if you get it right, it will be really important, because you'll be able to see both the south and the west side of the building. This cam might also seem to be a bit too obvious to be good, but again, you're throwing it into the backs of the enemy team, and there's really no reason for them to look at this part of the roof. These two cams on Kafe work kind of similar to the one on border ventilation, where they help by controlling the surroundings of the objective, and I think that's really important, especially on a spot like Train, Kafe, where the enemy team can just blow up the roof above you. These clips are recorded on the old Clubhouse, but the cams are also good on the new one. Having control of Armory is still going to be difficult, and that's why this first cam is good. And blue will also be, again, one of the focus points of the attacking team, so having a cam there is also good. The last one is especially good on the new iteration of Clubhouse, because now you can actually roam on the top floor, and the attackers are probably going to try to deny this roam by playing on the windows outside of gym, master bedroom and construction. And that's where this cam really gives you a lot of information. Even though the visibility of this cam might be limited, it's actually really important to know what's going on in classroom, because if there is no one in classroom, you can easily push the guy planting from laundry. Now, for some general tips, this video isn't supposed to be some kind of Valkyrie Bible. These spots are just a starting point if you don't know where to throw your cams at all. The point of this video is to show you what kinds of cams work, so you have an easier time throwing one yourself. When throwing a Valk cam, you should always ask yourself a few questions. First, does my cam give me any meaningful information? And here you also have to keep the trade-off between risk and reward in mind. The second thing you should think about is whether there is a way to throw your cam so it won't be in the immediate vision of the enemy team. You know, maybe you can throw it in the backs of your opponents like on Bank Server, or you can throw it on the floor like on Armory Border, or you can use some glitchy textures to hide it, like on VIP Lounge Coast for example. If you keep all of these aspects in mind, there's a good chance that your Valk cams will actually help you in a significant way. That's it for the video guys, I hope you learned something new, and if you enjoyed it, let me know.